So I've been using this technique to make a majority of my beats, and I've discovered that if you know how to set it up properly, you can get some really nice results. But before we hop into the tutorial, make sure you guys check out my other videos on the Roland P-6. I got a few other videos where I just sprinkle in a few tips and tricks here and there. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be chopping up a drum break and a sample for you guys. Here's the sample that we're going to be chopping up. And here's the drum break. And so there's a few different ways to start recording a sample here on the P-6. So what we're going to end up doing is turning this in knob to -24 dB. And we're going to see what our options here are. So we're recording at 44 kilohertz. And let's see, we're in a mono, we'll get 2 bars. In stereo, we'll get 1 bar. That's not really relevant right now, so we're just gonna go ahead and leave it at mono since it's drums. So we're gonna turn that start knob all the way to the right. And then once this sample starts playing, it's gonna go ahead and start recording. So now that we have it primed up, let's start the sample. So here's the sample right here. I actually recorded way too much, and I did that on purpose just to show you guys what will happen if you recorded too much. So we really want this to be a perfect loop, all right? So before we chop it up, we need this to be a perfect loop. Let's go ahead and hit gate, and we know that the start time is already good because we had that record button primed up. But let's go ahead and affect this end knob and try to get it to end on the 1. Okay, so a little bit less. We're really close right now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and hit Shift and G, which is also voice, takes us to the sample edit menu, and we're gonna scroll over to the size symbol. What this is gonna allow us to do is if we scroll to the left, I believe this is trimming the end of the sample. So now let's go ahead and listen to this with loop on. Okay. We got a far way to go. We're getting closer though. And we got it. When you go in there, when you press Shift voice and go to size, this is a really good way to fine tune the end of the sample, and SPOS is a really good way to fine tune the start of a sample, all right? So if you record too much or if you start recording too early, those are really good ways to do those fine adjustments. And when you're not in the sample edit menu, you're gonna use those start knobs for those big adjustments. Now that we have a perfect loop, we can turn off loop, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna chop this sample up. So let's hold Shift, go to voice, and we're gonna go to chop. Hit enter, and we're gonna select 8 chops. I usually select 8. You can do 4, you can do 16. I feel like 8 is a nice sweet spot because it gives me a good amount of chops, and it gives me chops that are a decent length. Our chop is perfectly separated into individual chops. So since we made this drum break a perfect loop, our chops are gonna be Our chops are already lined up to the grid. So let's go ahead and turn off gate. And now I can kind of play the drum break in a way that I want. Say if the drum break is too fast, the only way that you can change the tempo is by lowering the pitch or raising it if it's too slow. So say if I lowered this drum break to -3. And now we're kind of entering that lo-fi territory. If we record this at a lower sample rate and turned on that lo-fi, we'll just be building onto the recipes of boom bap and lo-fi. But now let's go ahead and go into the sample. So I already showed you guys the sample in the beginning. So since this is a slower sample, we will have to change the sample rate. We're going to be recording this at a sample rate of 22 kilohertz, just so we can get a little bit more time out of it. We're also going to record this in stereo, and let's make sure we'll get 2 bars. So we'll see what that does for us. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get ready to hit record. Okay, so I'm not quite sure if that's a perfect loop. Let's see. It's a little bit too early. Since I'm playing this sample from the source, I can't speed the sample up to capture more of the sample, but that's also an option if you guys are having this issue. But since we are having this issue and we can't speed the sample up, we're just going to have to turn 22 kilohertz sample rate and mono. Mono should be enough. As you can see, we can get 5 bars in here now. Pretty much more than enough time right there. So let's go ahead and get ready. Okay, so we got the first bar, which is pretty much the first chord that I just recorded. Let's go ahead and get ready to record that second bar. Let's go ahead and move on, do the same thing. Last chop right here. All right, so I'm not sure if these are all perfect loops, but I mean, I know that they're pretty close. So what we're going to do now is we're going to trigger the sample. We're going to hit voice. We're going to go to the chop, hit enter. And now we're going to go ahead and select 8. Since we're already on the chop menu, whenever we hit another pad, it's just going to take us to the chop menu for that pad. So we're going to go ahead and get all these chops to 8. All right, now all the chops are at 8. So that means when we go back, we're going to have 8 chops on each pad. I know it's pretty bright, but these pads have 8 chops on them. So let's go ahead and play around with these chops. We're going to turn off gate so that these chops can continue to play even when we let go. So let's see what we can get with these chops. All right, so now we have our chops in here. They're sounding decent. Some of these pads, I can tell that the timing is a little bit off, so I might have to do some surgical corrections, I believe, on pad 3 or 4. But I mean, we're not going to really get into detail on this tutorial that much. But speaking of which, if you guys feel like the BPMs aren't aligning up, remember, you can change the pitch and it's going to change the speed of the sample. So say if we change each pad -1 on the pitch. Okay, now let's see what we can get. But that's going to do it for this video. Remember, if you guys are vibing with this P-6 content, make sure to check out my other videos and make sure you drop a like and comment. Shout out to Big Daddy Chop because he actually gave me the idea to do this video and he kind of gave me the courage to put my techniques out there. So make sure you guys check out his channel. And if you guys have any sampling techniques on the P-6, make sure to post your videos because I've been watching all the videos. I'm not even gonna lie. But with all that being said, peace.